To many amusement enthusiasts, Walt Disney World is the definition of a well-executed theme park. A gigantic resort divided up into several themed areas provides an immersive experience that patrons won't soon forget. The Magic Kingdom opened in 1971 as a larger, improved version of what Disneyland had been when it opened in 1955. The park's theming set it apart from other amusement parks of the time, and even today, the Disney World Resort is held in high regard as one of, if not the greatest theme park of all time. But before Disney's other Florida parks opened and the Magic Kingdom was brand new, the park's location right next to Bay Lake was about to fill a void in the amusement industry. Disney now had a successful theme park in the Florida area, but the company extended its reach to that of water parks in 1976 when it opened River Country, the first fully themed water park. River Country was constructed at Disney's Fort Wilderness Lodge, across Bay Lake from the contemporary resort and in close proximity to Disney's Discovery Island, which opened in 1974. River Country was advertised as a companion park to the Magic Kingdom, offering a new kind of water park experience. River Country opened its doors in 1976, and Disney found themselves with a popular and successful first water park.
In order to make their way to the water park, guests first had to arrive at Fort Wilderness and take the Fort Wilderness train to River Country, which sat on 6 acres of land at the back of the resort. River Country was heavily themed to a rustic old swimming hole, as Disney stated that it was as though Huck Finn himself had designed the park. Attractions at River Country were split between 2 main pools, the first of which was called the Upstream Plunge. This was a 330,000-gallon chlorinated pool with a few slides attached to it. Front and center at Upstream Plunge were the slippery slide falls, 2 short water slides that went straight down into the pool. The second pool, and the main feature of River Country, was Bay Cove, a half-acre swimming hole that was made with filtered water from Bay Lake, giving it the appearance of an extension of the lake itself. Bay Cove was built slightly more elevated than the lake so as to prevent unfiltered lake water from entering into the park. The swimming hole had a number of attractions on it, including a tire swing, a cable ride, a boom swing, and a floating bridge. 2 large slides, known as Whoop and Holler Hollow, wound their way around the edge of Bay Cove before dumping guests back into the water. The final large attraction at River Country was Whitewater Rapids, which appeared to be a lazy river but was actually an inner tube ride with waterfalls and steep drops. The front of the park had a section for pony rides as well as a nature trail that went along the shore of Bay Lake. River Country also featured 2 small children's areas, and with these attractions in place, the park operated for more than 2 decades. Disney found great success operating the park, but like all parks, River Country was not without its problems.
Although River Country's location seemed fitting, given the theme of Fort Wilderness, it was largely out of the way for some guests. Although the Fort Wilderness Railroad was shut down in the early 1980s, guests still found the park to be placed inconveniently. The largest problem that River Country faced, however, was its size. At full capacity, the park could only hold under 5,000 guests. There were many times where guests and their families would make the trip to River Country, only to discover that the park was full and they would not be able to get in. Disney quickly realized the demand for a larger water attraction, and in 1989 opened Typhoon Lagoon, a 56-acre water park with many more attractions than River Country. Disney found great success in operating Typhoon Lagoon, and in 1995 opened their 3rd water park, Blizzard Beach. These 2 new parks were not only larger than River Country by a vast margin, they also featured many more attractions in comparison. Despite being outclassed, River Country continued to operate, now being viewed as more of a park catered to those staying at Fort Wilderness than a destination Disney park. River Country closed for the season on November 2, 2001 as usual. When time came for it to reopen for the 2002 season, however, something strange happened. It didn't.
When River Country didn't reopen in 2002, rumors began to circulate as to why the park remained closed. At the time, the Disney parks were suffering extremely low attendance and massive cost-cutting measures as a direct effect of the September 11th terrorist attacks. Tourism declined nationwide as a result of the attacks, and Disney was forced to close attractions, lay off employees, and scale down park operations substantially. Many park guests believed that the company did not see River Country as a profitable park during a time of such low attendance. Others believed that since the park was constructed in the 1970s, it was now deemed unsafe for public use. 2 teenagers drowned at the park in the 1980s, and the scarce placement of the lifeguard post likely was a factor that led to the drownings, but those took place more than 10 years before the park closed down. Disney banned swimming in their lakes in 1995, with River Country being an exception, and Florida law now prohibits water parks to use lake water in their attractions. River Country remained, though, due to its extensive water filtration system. A widely accepted belief is that River Country shut down due to a brain-eating amoeba in the water. There is actually one recorded death that took place at River Country due to this amoeba. The death took place in 1980, and it remained the only amoeba-related death at the park. The water in the swimming hole may have been lake water, but it was heavily filtered, and the fact that one death took place due to the amoeba likely suggests that Disney took the necessary steps to prevent it in the future. Despite having no solid reason for its closure, guests watched as River Country stood, but did not operate, with no concrete statement from Disney themselves.
In 2002, Bill Warren, a spokesman for Disney World, stated that River Country would reopen if there was enough demand. As time passed by, the park's chances of reopening continued to diminish. Until 2003, it appeared as though the park was still being maintained, but in 2004, it was clear that no more money was being put into the park. Finally, in 2005, Disney stated that River Country would remain closed and would never reopen. With a firm confirmation that the park's days were over, Disney chose a rather unusual use for the property. They abandoned it. Some signage was removed at the entrance, but the majority of River Country was left completely intact. As time passed by, guests on the ferry from Fort Wilderness to the Magic Kingdom could clearly see the park being reclaimed by weeds and vegetation. A fence was constructed to keep out curious individuals eager to see the park again, but that didn't stop quite a few people from sneaking in. What they discovered was an overgrown but mostly intact water park. The water in upstream plunge had turned green from standing for so long. The elaborate rockwork abundant through the park had become faded and broken. Both main water slides were barely visible through the overgrown trees, and Bay Cove looked even more natural than when it was in operation, as it was now comprised of unfiltered lake water. All the park's attractions remained intact, as the tire swing could still be seen hanging out over Bay Cove, along with the boom swing and cable ride. The beaches that once ran along the shore had become an extension of the surrounding forest, and although the park was neglected and overgrown, everything was still there in the exact same places they were left on that final day in 2001. Despite being a part of the company's history, many people accepted that Disney had chosen to forget its first water park.
Today, River Country continues to stand as a reminder of the fun that was once had there. The property is extremely overgrown and decaying, but everything is still there, and it's still abandoned. Not all of the property is abandoned, however. The fence that blocks public access runs right along where the upstream plunge pool is, but the front half of the park is open to the public. The original entrance and ticket booth are still there, and the front part of the park is used for Mickey's Backyard Barbecue dinner show. Even when the barbecue isn't going on, guests can still walk through River Country's entrance and peek over the fence to see what remains. Cast members patrol the area now, looking for trespassers, and those who have been caught found themselves banned from Disney property. Just by staying on one side of the fence, though, plenty of remnants can be seen. The water tower that was once present at the park is now located by the Meadow swimming pool, also at Fort Wilderness. In 2010, a huge Disney Vacation Club resort was proposed for the site, with an opening slated for 2011. However, nothing materialized as part of these plans, and the idea for the resort quickly died off. The most recent event to happen at River Country occurred in 2016 when upstream plunge was filled in with sand. Some rumored that this could be hinting at a future development on the property, but nothing has been confirmed, and it is likely filling in the pool was only an effort to eliminate a source of standing water to avoid the threat of the Zika virus. Today, the fence still stands, and behind it, River Country remains. Guests traveling on the ferry from Fort Wilderness to Magic Kingdom will be able to see the attractions still floating on Bay Cove, as well as the rest of the park overtaken by nature. Although it was outclassed by two larger water parks, River Country has its place in history as not only the first themed water park, but the first water park created by Disney. As nature continues to reclaim it, the future of the property is uncertain, but River Country did its job well in creating memories that will no doubt last a lifetime.